welcome to another stripped down Sunday. And my name is Reverend Ryan Alexander, and this is Soul Evolution Collaborative. And so, hope everyone's having a great Sunday so far. So, before we jump in, a couple of quick things. Anything you would ever want to know about Soul Evolution Collaborative, you can find on our website, soulevolutioncollaborative.org. Go click on that and poke around there and see all the fun and exciting things we have going on. Upcoming, we have our O-Shift Healing the Divide Summit, November 14th through 17th. And so all that information can be found on our website, as well as a lot of other fun activities that we have getting started, and a lot of great programming videos and just different ways to get involved in Soul Evolution Collaborative. So I invite you to do that. So this month we are taking a look at abundance, and our theme for the month has been Not Your Mama's Abundance. So it's all these different ideas and what it means to be abundant, and how oftentimes we confuse that that word with like having a lot of money or having a lot of things and all that. So we're just exploring the universal truth of abundance and how that shows up in our life in so many different ways. And so this week we are talking about learn your living. I know now you've probably heard oftentimes, or even said it yourself, like, I've got to earn a living. And so this idea of earning a living. So we're going to really talk about learning our living. And so for me, that looks a little bit like, what does it mean to live wholeheartedly? What does it mean to really sink into the experience of life, and how we can bring our whole selves to life, and whatever that looks like? And it's different for everyone else. And so have you ever met those folks that just seem to like exude passion and a love for life? And it seems like these folks have really tapped into something. Their lives and personalities are so magnetic, and you just kind of want to be with them. It's almost like they've truly hacked into the secret of like squeezing every aspect of love and joy out of life as possible. It's, their mere presence is called forth, and it is like something yearning to be expressed. And these folks can be described as living like this truly passionate, wholehearted lives, and it just impacts the whole space. I mean, I've been with people like this, and it's like, wow. I mean, I can even name a few people in my life like this, and you're like, man, I want what they've got. And so as we begin to talk about what it means to learn a living, the question today is, how can we live from this wholehearted space if we're not doing it already? I mean, how do we live from this space where that not only affects our own lives, but it transforms the world around us? When we tap into this ability to live wholeheartedly, we really find ourselves being like these impactful agents of change in the lives of others in the world around us. And so, when we live wholeheartedly, the energy naturally flows from us without even like realizing it. And this energy impacts not only our own lives, but everyone around us. So let's start by defining what it means to live wholeheartedly. I probably could have kind of strained my brain to come up with a definition, but I think Brene Brown has like the most powerful definition of wholehearted living. And she defines wholehearted living. It's about engaging our lives from a place of worthiness. It means cultivating the courage, compassion, and connection to wake up in the morning and think, no matter what gets done, no matter how much is left undone, I am enough. It's going to bed at night thinking, yes, I am imperfect and vulnerable and sometimes afraid, but that doesn't change the truth that I am worthy of love and belonging. And so this idea of what it means to live, and this wholehearted living, this learning a living sort of idea is kind of packed into that definition. And so I believe when we begin to practice a life from this space, that we're able to set examples for others, which gives them the freedom to do the same. We're always talking about showing up authentically and inviting other people to do the same. And I think that's what happens when we engage in wholehearted living. So how do we begin to cultivate this sort of life that is not wrapped up in zeros and earning and striving and working, but it's really cultivating this wholehearted life, a life which we live and learn and lead from this space. It's a process because it definitely takes practice. And so Brene Brown does have within her definition, there's the 3 C's of wholeheartedness, and we see that in the definition. We have courage, we have compassion, and we have connection. So first we have to cultivate this courage, and this courage is to tell our story and to be our authentic selves. Now, that can be scarier for some more than others. And in a world of comparison and fitting in, like we've talked about before, it's our work to really identify our values, our beliefs, our strengths, and our opportunities for growth, and live in such a way that these aspects of our true self shine through. For me, so often I would like to hide parts of myself, and I'm sure you'd like to hide parts of yourself, but we have to resist that urge to hide, no matter how safe or tempting it may be. Resist the urge to play small and really step boldly into who we are and what is ours to do. And this is not to say that I have it all figured out or we have to have it all figured out, but instead we recognize the value and joy in living authentically, whatever that looks like for you. Understanding that we are the home of the divine, that the very presence of life itself dwells in us. We don't have to earn it or do anything to get it. It's already there. And when we can truly understand this, not only with our heads, with our hearts, we can begin to see that playing small and from a place of fear, lack, and limitation is really no longer viable. It really doesn't kind of hold the essence of who we are. We just have to bust through. I can think of an example from my own life when I truly experienced the kind of this feeling tone, this energy of wholehearted living, and the actual courage that it takes to embark on maybe something new, or embark on how we can change things within our lives and within the lives of the world around us. And so about 12 years ago, I agreed to do one of the craziest things that I have ever done. And a friend of mine was turning 30 and decided it was necessary and would be a really fun time to jump out of an airplane. And so apparently doing this alone was not as fun as like roping the 3 friends to go down with you. And so this coincided with my, I was emerging from a really kind of challenging time in my life. So I thought, yeah, this is a great way to just kind of break free from kind of what I had been experiencing and kind of express myself in this large way. And so kind of like a symbolic gesture of the new Ryan, the playing big Ryan, the living life to the fullest Ryan. And so living life on the edge, and so I was, I felt hyped and, and alive, and all that excited energy of doing something big. And that was on the car ride there. And so once we pulled into the parking lot of this place where we were going to skydive, let me tell you, it took almost 2 people to get me out of the car because I was terrified. And so we had to wait for a period of time, like an 8-hour weather delay, before we could do the jump. And let me tell you, it was not my finest hour. I was terrified. And of course, all this is videoed. I don't like heights and I don't like being in planes. So I'm not really sure why I thought this was a great idea. So I was really determined, okay, I was going to do this. I wasn't going to let my fear kind of control me. And so I kind of felt this like debilitating terror. But I didn't want it to impact my ability to like partake in this like amazing opportunity. And so once I kind of recovered and got my breath back, we like got ready to jump, and then it's tandem, and so then I was strapped on the back of the instructor and all this stuff, and I'm like hyperventilating again, and then all of a sudden we do this backflip off of the plane. I'm telling you, after that, those moments of terror and then that free like falling, I have never like felt more alive, more aligned, and surprisingly like more at peace. Maybe it was just the adrenaline, but it felt like the whole like power of the universe was like coursing through my veins. And I kind of like use that example because I believe that's what it feels like to live this life, to cultivate courage, to be our authentic selves, to experience life, from this wholehearted vantage point. That doesn't mean you have to jump out of a plane, but it's that kind of energy that you feel, because the truth of the matter is that the universe is coursing through our veins. And when we align ourselves with it, we understand the truth of living with our whole hearts. And so, secondly, in order to experience wholehearted living, we have to cultivate and practice compassion for both others and ourselves. And, this is more important now than ever. According to Webster's dictionary, compassion is defined as sympathetic consciousness of others, others' distress, together with a desire to alleviate it. And so when we become keenly aware of not only our needs, but the needs of others, we are pulled toward this kind of life that seeks to show kindness and loving service. And wow, don't we need that more now than ever? This goes beyond like mere sentiment and our desire to show up, but it really is this deep understanding of intrinsic value, this this central desire and focus to alleviate suffering and promote wellness in ourselves and others in the world around us, to lift up, support, listen, to be willing to be vulnerable, open our heart, all these things, cultivating compassion. And this is a necessary ingredient for wholehearted living, because we know that we are connected, we are communal beings, and this compassion really taps into who we are as individuals, and the challenges we face and the changes that we can make when we come together. And so this coming together leads us to the third C, which is connection. And wholehearted people, really understand the importance of connection, not only with themselves, but with others, and with the divinity that's back of all of it. And they're aware that we are born for connection. And, we're not called to Lone Ranger living. And I think we see a lot of that in our world today and the effects of it. People who live from wholehearted spaces, they really seek real connection with others, and they're not afraid to ask for what they need, or be vulnerable, to see others or allow themselves to be seen. And they definitely understand the foundational value of connection with themselves. And, from this grounded space, they're able to engage in relationships from a heart-centered space. And we know that that's where the real connection and happens. And so to live from this heart space is to cultivate the ability to stand fully in alignment with the divine within us, and live that reality out loud. To live from the heart is to call to stand truthfully, authentically, and honestly. It's about nurturing our ability to listen to our own inner wisdom and intuition, and more importantly, to act on its guidance. Ernest Holmes has this, I think what would be defined as this idea of wholehearted living, this really learning to live, from that awareness. He says, "It is wonderful to realize that we can sit in the quiet of our own being and consciously direct a power greater than we are, for the definite purpose of helping ourselves and someone else. This power should be used for both purposes. For we have to get back to this simple proposition: we must use the power to help ourselves first, in order that we may establish a realization of our ability to use it for others. If you would bring happiness to those around you, you first must become happy yourself. But before you can become happy, something has to happen to you that causes you to know that God is right where you are, that good is the final power in the universe, and that love is an all-conquering force. You have to have confidence and self-assurance. And this kind of confidence and self-assurance comes only through having proved to yourself completely that there is a power greater than you are. It is the power of good that is available, and that you actually know how to use it. And the only proof you will ever have is what it does to you and to others. Wow, how powerful is that we have this ability not only to tap into this wholehearted living for ourselves, a wholehearted living that is not based on getting or acquiring, but this wholehearted living based on realizing what already is, and how that awareness changes our life, and how that change can then impact others. When we live from this space, it not only transforms our experience, but everything around us. And, by tapping into the awareness of our own being, the power within, and our unique ability to actually use this power, we create a life that speaks to our true selves. And then we invite other people to do the same. And this is from a passionate and creative space, not a space of fear, even though we may have that. And when we operate from this creative space, this knowledge that we can create and facilitate transformative impacts in our world, that we become like in contact with the very essence of who we are, the very divine self. It completely changes ourselves and the world around us. And this is living by design and not by default. And, all too often we kind of get in this loop of default thinking, the way it's always been, same thinking, same response, same thinking, same outcome. But wholehearted living, one that is by design and conscious choice, becomes a transformative power. But first, this begins with us. It's kind of like that healthy little instruction when you're on a plane, put your mask on first before you, and breathe normally. Of course, they always say breathe normally before you help others with your mask. And that's true, although the breathe normally part gets a little bit hairy for me. But when we live from a space of confidence and assurance that God or spirit or whatever you want to call it is right where we are, that nothing is impossible, because we house this universal power and love, and we can use both of these things as guiding forces in our life, learning this wholehearted way of living. So whether we realize it or not, as we are on the spiritual path towards a greater understanding of ourselves, our openness and our willingness to live wholeheartedly creates this chain reaction in our lives and in the lives of those in our sphere of influence, and then just ripples out from that space. And no matter how big or small those ripples may be, when we cultivate and practice wholehearted living, we invite others to do the same. And let me tell you, it becomes a catalyst for the transformative effects that we so want to see, not only in our own lives, but in the lives of others, in the lives of our collective awareness, our collective family. And so when we can begin to really sink into that awareness for our own life, then we kind of open this kind of door for that to really kind of flood our collective experience. And so I invite you to, what aspects, this week can you really begin to tap in this idea of wholehearted living? What are some things that we can become aware of, that we can begin to shift our focus from this kind of acquiring, earning, kind of grasping sort of awareness of life, but instead like sitting in the understanding of what is that abundance, that truth, that love, that peace, those things that don't go away, those things that can't be taken, or those things that can't be earned or can't be gained or lost, that they already are. And so how can we, in our own lives where we are standing, how can we tap into that? And so that is the invitation this week, to begin to think about those spaces and those things, and really begin to cultivate wholehearted